Good morning, and what is going on, all you profitable stylists and all you future profitable stylists out there? Last week, during our conversation, we were talking about the different mistakes that you can make during sourcing hair extensions. And during that conversation, we naturally started progressing into comparing different techniques, which we didn't have enough time to go too deep into. So we're going to talk about it today. Talk about comparing all the different types of hair extension techniques. I was looking into it. Can you take a wild guess approximately how many different types of techniques there are for hair extensions overall?
Oh my God, man, I bet so many don't count, but I'm going to say if it just off the top of my head, I'm thinking like K-tip, O-tip, wefts, tied and sewed in. So easily could name 8 or 9, but I'll bet you there's like twice that, maybe triple. So I'm going to say 30.
I stopped counting after 35. I got up to 35 in my research and I'm like, I'm done. It's never ending.
Wow. Did any of them say spirit gum?
I can't. What was fascinating to me, though, is, man, the amount of innovation that's out there, the amount of experience, the amount of excitement, the amount of want of this service is awesome. You know, that was my big takeaway from all of this was I stopped after that number and I'm like, man, there's so much to talk about. There is a lot of nuances and differences between each one of the techniques, but if you start categorizing them, just like you were saying, if you just think about it off the top of your head, you could probably name about, 5 or 6 or 8 main types of extensions. And then everything becomes a variation of that, And
a little side note for people selling hair extensions as a service, this comes with experience, and maybe I can help somebody get over this little weird fear. When somebody calls up and says, do you do blah, 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 don't even listen to what they say. Because most of the time the client just saw some weird ad somewhere. And I remember when I was a young stylist, one I've never seen, I had no idea how it works, but the name has stuck in my head because I love the monkey bars, but there was a technique called monkey bars. So as a kid, I loved the monkey bars, and people would call so often, at least once a month, and say, do you guys do monkey bars? And if I had a long coordinator receptionist, she didn't know what they were talking about, but often they would say, do y'all do the monkey bar hair extension technique? And I would say, yes, never seen it before. Don't know what it looks like. I would say, tell them all yes, but come in for a consultation so that we can match color, length, see what they want. And when they would come in, I would say hair extensions go by so many names. Some people call this monkey bar. Some people call it tape, glue, web, tied and sewed in, hand tied. There's so many names that show me what monkey bars are to you. And most of the time they would say, well, I have no idea what it is. So the funny thing is they're asking for a technique that they have no idea how it even works. They just heard a name, because that is a catchy name, right? And you hear it.
The beauty of marketing, and more importantly than anything else, and I love the fact that you always say yes, just come in for a consultation. Even if they did know what it was, and even if they was asking for a very specific way or a technique or a pattern, the most important question of all, will it match or is it appropriate for their type of hair? Can they or will they be willing to, or can they be able to maintain that specific technique, that specific hair extensions that's matched up with their specific, type of hair that they have?
Right.
I love the advice you're giving. It's so vital. It's so important to do the consultation.
And just to kind of go off track for a second, that works in every hair service.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do these color techniques? There's thousands of names for them. Just get them in there for the consultation. They just want to know if you are likable, knowledgeable, care, will try to do what they want. Just say, well, do you have a picture? Because it might come under a different name. all these techniques come under a different name. So before I go way off track, do you have anything specific you want to talk about with all these techniques?
The main thing is we're gonna talk about a lot of them. What you got to understand is whether you like some of these or not, whether you agree or not, whether you do them or not, whether you believe in them or not, you have to understand that you have to be willing to have an honest conversation with somebody.
Right.
I'm going to preface all of this today by saying, don't convince the person sitting in your chair, the client sitting in your chair. Don't convince them that they have to get the one technique that you know, because that's the one technique that you know. And if you truly believe in the thing that you do, that is amazing and that is awesome. And you should definitely stand behind your work. But don't shoehorn and force your work onto somebody who it's just not going to fit. Just because that's the thing you're comfortable with. Either be willing to lose that client, recommend them to somebody else, or just flat out be honest and say, look, I don't know that. Look, I know this. I do this very, very well, and I'm extremely confident in this. But
it's not for you.
It's not for you. This type of hair extension would be for you. So there's two choices here. I can go learn that technique and you can become my first model and help me get good because I know this would be great for you. Or I got to recommend you to somebody else and I just can't do it for you.
That's what I was going to say. Don't be afraid to recommend.
Yeah, I've taught a number of stylists who literally came to learn the technique for their it started off with their one specific client. They had zero intention of doing it on anybody else, but they loved that one client enough that they were willing to learn a technique. And the client, it only happened a couple of times. The client covered the entire training because they really liked that stylist and they wanted that stylist to do their hair.
My favorite is, I hope Miley Cyrus hears this one day, but I doubt she listens to our YouTube live. I had a guy call me on like a Monday or a Tuesday and say, I am getting ready to do Miley Cyrus's hair extensions. This was years ago. And I don't know how to do the technique that she wants, but I know you teach it. Can I come for a class? And I think they were living in the Tennessee area. He lived right near there. What he did was he cut Billy Ray Cyrus's hair, and he would go to their place to cut it. It was about the time she posed with a little too few clothes on, but she was very involved with Disney. She was on the cover of a magazine, covering all the private parts, but nothing on Disney. Was a little mad because they're like, hey, you're representing a family-friendly organization here. So he said, so the recommendation was go into hiding, stop talking to anybody for a little while. So she was kind of stuck at home for a few weeks. Don't talk to the press. But he would go through the gate where people were, the press was just waiting for Miley to come out. He would go through the gate, cut the mom and the dad's hair. And he said, while I'm cutting Billy's hair, Miley says, do you do hair extensions? And here's a good example of him saying, yes. He didn't. He did. I'm going to have you redo mine when you come next time. And he said, what kind do you have? And she said, keratin. He said, okay. Then he found me. And he came for a class. And I said, when do you do them? He goes, just in about a week or two. I said, well, you better practice a little bit. So I said, listen, you could bring me along and say, I'm your assistant and I do all your work. And you could just say, you already told me what to do. And I'll do her hair just for the experience. Totally free. He never invited me. But I thought it was fascinating that he was brave enough, like just to learn at the last second. And never did get to hear how well it went, how good it did. He didn't answer his calls after that. He's a very busy stylist and he got what he needed. He flew in town a couple extra days, had a little fun in the French Quarter, Bourbon Street, and then came and took the class and flew out and maybe did her hair. But I just like the way he thought, because I've done that a lot of times. I'm a little more honest about it. Like you said, I would love to do that technique. My first Great Lengths class was that way. I was buying raw hair, tipping it myself before tipped extensions were popular. And I had a lady come in that I was putting Yeah, homemade. Bernard made stranded extensions from cutting it off of West, putting the hot glue on myself, with a little hot pot. And she said, I heard about this technique, great lengths. I said, me too. And I'm going to go take a class. I think a girl that I'm friends with said she can bring somebody for free. And I'm thinking about going. And she said, well, I tell you what, if you go, I will be your first client. She paid the deposit right then. So I was going to a class for free. I got an $800 deposit. Now I got my hotel and travel covered. And then she takes this little scrunchie off her head. Remember the hair scrunchies?
Oh,
It
yeah.
had all that hair in it, and it matched her hair color. And she pulls it off her head and she goes, this is my color. Match it while you're there and come back with hair. So they didn't have hair at the class, but I showed it. They pulled out a coloring, and one of the experts helped me match the color. Wow, I hit my computer again. I got a little excited. They helped me match the color from the scrunchie, told me exactly what to order. I ordered hair before I left. It was being shipped. I called her up, and, I got the hair within a day or two of me coming back from the class. So you can be creative. So when people tell me I don't have money, I don't have a way to do this class, buy the hair, how do I get started? I always think you're not being creative enough. You can get it done with no money if you have enough determination.
If you got enough determination. I mean, look, that's how I got started in hair extensions. I was doing hair color at a photo shoot. I was just popping in some highlights real quick and adjusting the tone from look to look, depending on what the models needed, what the photographer wanted. One of the models comes over and says, oh, you do, I liked a couple of pieces that you did here. Do you ever do anything else? I go like, oh yeah, sure. She goes, oh, do you blow dry style? I'm like, yeah, sure. Never touched a blow dryer in my life outside of beauty school, So I'm like, oh yeah, I blow dry hair. Yeah, sure. She was cute. I was like, yeah, I was just saying yes to anything just to get to spend time with her, right? And then her friend comes over. She's cuter, and she's like, oh, do you do hair extensions? I'm like, oh, of course I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh, what are you doing next weekend? I'm like, anything you want, My dumbass, yeah, that entire week, yep, I do hair extensions.
Hair extensions to do it.
Found out how much does it cost? Well, back then it was $1,500, and I did not have $1,500. So I figured it out real quick.
What did you do? Can you say? How'd you get the $1,500, or how'd you get the education? How'd you get it done?
Well, okay, so back then there was the what do they call it nowadays?
Credit cards.
No, what do they call the pyramid stuff nowadays?
Oh, you were in a pyramid scam.
I started one.
Wow, talk about resourceful. So you did get the cash. You just
I got the cash real quick.
I need money from everybody because I got to do something more. That's incredible. Wow.
So
what do you mean you didn't blow dry hair out of school yet? You're doing color, not blow drying? You were letting people hair dry?
I hated blow drying
early on.
But early on, I hated styling. We did a crap ton of roller sets. I hated doing it. I hated doing the ratting and or what do you call it?
Teasing.
Teasing. I hated doing the teasing.
Some people called it ratting.
Yeah. Wrapping perms, it was just, oh my gosh. I love the chemical aspect of everything, though. I love the color.
Like most young hairdressers, I don't want to do the stuff that makes the money all day, every day. Right. I want to do the fun stage, fantasy colors, wild, crazy cuts color. Yeah.
At my time, during my time coming up, everything was mohawks. The taller, the harder, the higher the mohawk you can get. So everything was like hairspraying and pressing hair. That was fun as hell, coloring it 20 different colors, having it look like a flame or a fire, coming off their head.
Back on track.
Yeah, the rocker. Yeah. It was like the big 80s rocker hair, like that. That was the coolest freaking thing. I wanted to be Axl Rose. I didn't want to be.
So you figure out how to get it done. And all people have to do is ask me. And I text it out so often. People will say, yeah, I want to do your technique. I just can't afford it right now. And I'll say, well, I'll tell them how, or do you want help? And they're like, oh, not right now. It's the belief level just kills me sometimes how low the belief level is for some people. They just don't believe they can do it. They don't believe there's people in their area. They don't believe there's enough clients. I don't know. They don't believe they'll do it good enough. But let's get back to technique, because
so if you start getting into it at a minimum, clip-ins is the entry.
Yeah.
In my opinion, clip-in extensions is the entry. That's the way to get started. You don't have to have a skill set just yet for the placement. It's the most forgiving. It's the most user-friendly. You put them in. Oops. Okay. Well, you unclip and pop them right out and put it right back in. You know.
I'm looking at 3 sets of clip-ins on a table right now that I'm testing at different lengths.
Yeah.
I've got a girl coming in at 11:30 today, 30 minutes after we finish. And she's going to do one of those suction cup things on the mirror. You know, we got the mirror over here, and she'll put the suction cup thing and the selfie camera on there. And I'm going to do the TikTok style videos. She has a brown, mostly blonde with some brown lowlights in her hair. And I gave her some extensions. She's loving them. And we're going to put 3 more different colors on her head just to kind of see how it goes, and do some video where she's looking right into the camera and doing it. And we're doing it mostly to test this hair out. She's loving it. It's high quality hair. And now we just need to come up with a price and what lengths and colors we'll carry. So I'm having fun with clip-ins right now. I never thought about it as a low risk entry point for technique and placement, because you do kind of learn placement. We put it on her, and, you know, I was videoing. We put it in. She put it in, took it out. She put it in, took it out 2 or 3 times, all within 30 minutes. So it's like such a quick, easy thing to do.
Get it in place before you cut them in. Don't cut them in and style them in until you're 100% sure on it. And the way you know is once you get it in place and you like it, let the client, person wearing their hair, walk around with it for 5 minutes and then come back. Basically, don't, as much as you want to keep looking at yourself in the mirror, get the client to turn around and stop looking in the mirror. Just have them walk through the salon. Let them feel the weight of it and feel the movement of it going around. 5-minute timer. Then you sit them back in the chair. You spin them around and have them look at themselves again. People don't realize, as stylists, don't realize the client. You are just used to knowing how you look. There is a perception that you have in your mind of how you look. You just get used to it. It's psychological.
Yep. That's right.
You don't look yourself, and all of a sudden you look yourself, you're like, ooh, quick shock. If that still feels good, then you know it's right. Then you cut it in and you style it in and you're good to go, you know? It alleviates the buyer's remorse. It alleviates the self-consciousness of everything.
Well, we tried these clip-ins on her a couple of times, and we did do the parts we thought we're going to put down low and the parts we were going to put here, we ended up swapping. Yeah. So yeah, right. If we'd have, because all I really did was cut the side to blend it in. And if I'd have cut the pieces that ended up getting swapped, you wouldn't have noticed it underneath, but it wouldn't maybe I need to blend in both of them. Okay. But no, she found the way that it looked and felt better on her head. So that's what we ended up doing was the ones that were finally there. We were kind of actually debating. Thank you. I asked my son, I said, and the girl, I was like, so you want to wear these for a few days or do you want to blend those sides in now? Because we can wait. And he said, I would wait a few days. And she said, could you blend it now? I said, of course. Yes, I can, but I don't know what's right now. You know, it seems like you're pretty confident with the way you're going to wear them. So let's do it. Let's do it now. But like you said, you got to kind of gauge that. And if they're not sure how high, where they're going to wear them, maybe you do need a day, a few hours, a few days to wear it to get a feel for where you're going to clip and put the hair and then blend it. And sometimes if you just sort of slightly blend it, it could still be moved around and it won't look bad within the hair. But if you do a lot of layering, that's when it's going to be more important. If you're going to really do a layered look, you're going to want to make sure you find a place. Hey, when it comes to placement, I can't help thinking of this one big thing that's still held over from last week that we talked about, that I thought about, because we were talking about where, how, damaged hair, because a lot of hairdressers, this is one of the biggest mistakes I think hairdressers make when they they make it in my own salon after I tell a lady she can wear these extensions, and then I leave the consultation, and one of my stylists is doing the consultation, and then the hair doesn't get sold, and I come back a day later and I'm like, what? Where's the disconnect? What happened? Well, after you left, we got to talking, and her hair is just a little dry and damaged, and we're going to let it grow out a little bit and try to repair her hair a little bit before we put the extensions in. And I'm like, yeah, that's why I'm the owner and you're not. Next time you unsell something I already sold, you will not do extensions in my salon ever again. What the heck? What do you mean? Do you think all
You
these
missed it. You missed the fact that her hair was damaged, you know?
Yeah. Do you think that I was trying to take advantage of her? You think I was trying to damage her hair? Why didn't you ask me? Talk to me first, because people's hair grows a half an inch a month, right? That's where we're connecting the hair, the healthiest part of the hair on the head. So when we talk about placement, I mean, it's not exactly placement, but it kind of is placement. It's not the wear on the head, but it is the wear on the hair kind of placement. And so you get 2 months in and you got 1 inch of growth, you are great to go. You're pretty good to go at 1 month. If you just totally bleached it 3 or 4 times in one day, just destroyed it over the last few months, whatever, then you go 1 month doing nothing, you probably can wear extensions. If you go 2 months, you definitely can wear extensions because the hair grows out. Extensions are connected to the hair near your scalp. You're not going to cause any more damage with extensions near the scalp. Now, there's a different kind of problem that people may not think about. Internal radiation, chemo, liquid diets. Some of these things will destroy the hair that's coming out of your head, and it's damaged from inside out. And it's just thin and damaged and falling or shedding a lot. No, maybe you don't put extensions on that hair. But if it's us damage, like human outside influenced damage with chemicals or blow drying or whatever, even the pull, well, then a couple of good months of just doing nothing, it's still going to look terrible for the most part because you still got all of this. It's all fried, it all do. But when you put extensions in, it's going to, and you put it in the right angle, enough hair to support it, and you put enough hair on their head, you can make the terrible looking hair look pretty good. And so then go ahead. You want to say something, then I'm going to go into the next.
You actually are protecting.
Yes. That's what I was going to go into next, but you tell me your opinion about that.
Because here's the thing. You're talking about physical damage versus internal damage, okay? If due to chemical processing, like you said, or heat damage, that's all physical. That's messing up the porosity of the hair. That's messing up, the cuticle layer. That's not affecting the cortex in any way, the internal layer of the hair in any way. So as long as that is fine, and you have surface damage, putting hair extensions, we have helped people grow their hair back out. We have helped people protect that damaged hair while we're spending the next month or two reconditioning their hair to get it back in a better place. We have alleviated the stress of them having to overuse a lot of more products to make their hair look presentable every day while they're waiting that magical month or two for their hair to magically get better.
Right. And that's the other thing. Hair doesn't get better in a month or two. That's the other problem. People don't realize that the half an inch a month, hair down to here is about a year. So it takes 8 months or 6 to 8 months to grow and trim off the bad looking hair on the ends to start looking better. But you're right. If we put hair extensions in, it puts more hair. So it kind of leads me into one other thing before I talk about that is so often a person with this damaged hair, destroyed hair, it's all different lengths and real wispy at the ends. And you'll do an extension consultation and they'll understand that we're connecting the hair where your hair is the strongest. So although your hair might still continue to look like snow on a black shirt, if you have a blonde hair, they're brushing through their blonde hair and those tips and ends are still breaking off because they're damaged or half a strand, and you'll have blonde hairs all over a black shirt. It's rarely breaking this close to the scalp, especially if it's grown out a month or 2 months. where we're connecting the good, strong hair. Yes, you still might have some breakage, but it's not going to be the hair that we connect the extensions to if done correctly. So keeping that in mind, it's tough because they're like, I'm still losing hair, I'm still shedding hair, but not the extensions if done right. So then in between the consultation and getting the hair done, often they'll say, I got a good friend of mine who's in beauty school to give me a trim to make it look better before the extensions. That's when I want to rip my freaking hair out. I'm like, why would you go to another freaking hairdresser? What?
They're trying to help. They got good intentions.
I know. Yeah. Well, let's get 2 or 3 hairdressers to help them. Why don't you go to 2 or 3 different salons so we can have twice and 3 times the help we need between the consultation with a professional and then some freaking students in school or another salon that doesn't even do extensions, but they're going to help you. I know they're trying to help, but and I stay very nice. I'm just doing this and I'm venting with you because I can. And I know a lot of other hairdressers can feel my pain. And it's like, all you did was make it worse now. How am I going to make a blunt line disappear in extensions? It's going to be more difficult. And so go ahead.
To that point, have you ever done fairy hair?
Fairy hair.
Yeah.
They don't exist.
You ain't never, no, well, they call it fairy hair.
Fairy knots.
Like feathers and the tensils and things like that. Have you ever done those knot-in techniques?
I have not. I have not personally tied in tinsel, but
okay,
I've heard of it.
So to that point, when you're talking about bad haircuts, especially, right? A lot of people feel like, oh, I got to get it all blunt. I got to get it all even because it's all separated and disconnected and things like that.
It looks thicker and more when it's more solid. I get
and it looks more thicker when it's more solid. But then everyone's like, oh, I got to cut it off. I got to start all over. I got to grow it back out. This sucks, blah, blah, blah. You could just not, at a minimum, another technique that you could do is you could just take that. If this is the gap, that little gap like this much, you could just knot in some hair, knot in some tinsel, some yarn, some feather, some accessorizing type of hair extension. It doesn't have to be a full head application, right?
True.
You can do like that and just bringing attention to the problem area sometimes works to your advantage if you accessorize it correctly, because now you don't look like there's a gap in the hair. It looks like you've got, you styled your hair on purpose and then you didn't style your hair over here because
you cut a hole so you could frame the artwork.
You frame up the thing that's over there. Again,
that's interesting.
Creativity. We're talking about creativity. Yeah. We're talking about comparing different types of techniques. Again, it's a low risk, kind of similar to the clip-ins. It's a low risk way of getting started with extensions or using extensions creatively.
I got in the habit of just, when I did a consultation, I would say, okay, so we are now married. Okay. I am your hairdresser. You are my client forever and ever. We will see no one else, right? You will not color your own hair before I see you next time for extensions. And you will not get a haircut, right? And they're like, oh, you don't think that I should at least, we do, I'll be doing it. You don't do it and you don't have somebody else do it, right? And I'll say, I know, I'm just kidding. I just have a lot of clients that think they're helping and then they just mess it up. They think, oh, my hair color faded, so they color it. Well, I ordered color to match the color you have now. And then they're like, oh, it looks thin, so I was going to thicken it up so it'd be easier for you to do. It ain't going to make it any easier or harder for me to do. It's just going to make it look stupider on you is the problem. And so I'm trying to make your hair look the best. And sadly so, I get that it doesn't make sense. The more uneven your hair is, the more broken up, the more just terrible it looks at the ends. The better it actually blends with extensions. There's no solid lines. It's just so broken up. It's almost like a cut melt instead of a color melt. And so I say, I try to educate them a little bit. Listen, your hair is going to look great with extensions. Nobody's going to see the blend between yours and the other because it's so uneven at the ends. Do not get a trim. Do not get color. Okay. And usually they're like, okay, but sometimes that's when they're like, wait, why?
Yeah.
But through terrible experiences, in my life and some of my clients, I've learned to kind of cover that. So then placement isn't as necessary. So it's still all about placement. I don't have to place as perfectly or strategically if I have broken up ends. If they do make it blunt, well, then placement is different. I have to then say, I'd like to texturize your ends, thin them out again. Now we're just even shorter and harder to blend. But the other thing is I'd like to place extensions closer to your part. The closer to the part I can go, the thicker the hair, the closer to the part I should go to hide all of those blunt lines that are underneath the extensions. And that is another one that not the clients fight, the hairdressers, right? I gave, listen, I gave free extensions to a salon that at the last show I went to. I found out how many employees she had, how much extensions they do, and it's close to 10 months now, because I know the next show comes up in maybe a little less. It comes up in like March or April that I'll see her in again, maybe a little further. Anyway, I gave the free hair and they was like, yeah, we'll use it. And they just didn't. And then they didn't. And then they didn't. But I hadn't given up. I keep texting, and they saw my videos and he saw me at the show. We trained a couple of the girls. They were so excited. And then they just making things happen. The practical part is tough. They found a model, but she didn't match the color. I said, I will send you the right color and you can ship that hair back. No, we're going to find somebody with this color hair that you gave us. And I said, okay. So finally they get it. And they do the age old. Now, there's some problems with the technique that I'm working with through some videos and some conversation. But the funniest thing is I see a short weft going in right here below the ears in the back. And I'm thinking, I don't even teach that technique. Why did you cut the weft? Sure, you can cut the weft, but the beaded weft that we sell, I gave them 2 and a pack of strands. And I was like, put 2 wefts all the way around, so we can get hair into the sides also. But they're so scared it's going to show on the sides. I don't know what the finished product looked like. I didn't get that picture or video. I didn't get any questions on where should I put it. Just look what we're doing. What do you think? Well, your tool is dropped down. You're not crimping the bead at the 90-degree angle, like parallel to the floor, like we talked about. Doesn't look like the bead's getting squeezed hard enough, because I see the tool just barely getting pushed like that. And I was like, you really want to flex that tool a little bit at the end of the squeeze. You need to put a little bit more hair in the bead. You need to hold it at natural fall when you give it. I know our technique is really fast and easy. So some people see us do it and they're like, I can do that. Yeah. Put enough hair at the correct angle, get the bead on there just right. They're holding all the wrong hair, so they can't slide the weft up because they're holding the weft hair as well as the beaded hair. So they're pushing, and I'm like, you got to have just the bead hair in your hand. You got to push it all the way up. You got to squeeze it harder at the correct angle. It's a bunch of simple little things, but again, good product, terrible technique can make a good product look terrible. We have no idea, 3-legged stool, right? We have no idea what the client's going to do at home, but the client's going to go home, maybe have a bad experience and say, y'all's product or your hairdresser sucks. It's the hairdresser, maybe. She's brand new. But immediately the girl texted me and said, you know what? The client loves the hair. I'm like, well, so it's good quality hair. The client probably just loves having more hair, never had it before. And if it's her first experience ever, even a little pain might be okay. I'm sure extensions are supposed to hurt, right? Well, no, but she might think, you got to have a little pain to have some gain, so she's gaining hair, looking prettier. She probably thinks it's supposed to hurt a little bit. And that's fine. It might even be okay if it hurts a little bit, but it might look a little mullety. It might look a little too much hair over the top because they started so low right here. Maybe they built up and put more, but for all I know, they did everything up to here and then just stopped right behind the ears in the back.
I got to do some research to see how many variations or names do we have for the mullet haircut. Because I tell you, there's got to be at least a dozen different names for the mullet, these days, man. It's such a trending.
I did
variations of it,
I did a cut that I just thought was severe layers, and people kind of dubbed it a shag, and then some people a mullet, and then some people just said that's just a lot of layers. So you're right. It's a hot topic for naming and doing.
So now, did you ever braid hair before?
Very first week of hair school, they were doing French braids.
Okay.
And growing up a boy, never cut hair before. I didn't grow up a little girl where I was cutting and styling and doing my friends. I feel like a lot of girls have an advantage over most guys because they're, if not styling their own hair with a curling iron. I had never touched a curling iron before I started school,
Yeah.
right? And so, but I was good with my hands. I did a lot of woodworking. I did rope work, knots. I did my grandma. That's one of the things I did do that I hate to say girl boy stuff, but my grandma did a lot of doilies. She crocheted a lot. And so when we go stay with them for a week or two in the summer, I'll be like, Grandma, what are you doing? She's like, crocheting. You want to learn? Yeah. So I was able to crochet with a little, I make a one long chain, they called it, that I learned how to hook it together, start making circles. And then she started teaching us how to knit. And I'm sure my dad was having a fit, like, what are you doing to these straight boys? Who knows? But he never said anything. But first week of hair school, we were not cornrow braiding, French braiding, 3, 5, 7 strands. And I was the best in the class. Thank God they started with that, because that's what made me fall in love with hair school. And I was like, this is so fun. It's so easy. But then we got to cutting and coloring and perming, and it was a lot harder. But what about braiding? I'm sorry, I got
that's what you start working in hair into the braids. That's another technique, right? And that's what introduced me to glue, tape, crocheting hair extensions into the braid, yarn, different types of materials. It didn't just have to be hair anymore. That's where I was first introduced to synthetic type of hair. Was all into the braiding techniques, into the hand, which then became the hand tied, which then became the sewing, which then became the beaded, anchoring it in with beads and stuff, right? So the evolution of that, in my opinion, I bring all of that back to the braid and the glue.
Yeah, that's a good analogy, because that is a part of the history of hair extensions, because it was definitely originally put in with some sort of braiding or crisscrossing or tying method with something added to it later to make it not unravel, whether it was little rubber bands or, as you hate to hear, spirit gum or some kind of sticky product was what they would use to keep it from unraveling. But it wasn't just the spirit gum that held it in. It was more of the crisscrossing or the braid, and then some sort of sticky product to keep it from unraveling. And sometimes it was just a little bit of braid near the scalp and then hair hanging out. And it was a good idea. Yeah. And then, like you said, putting hair in with a braid was cool looking because of the way it would zigzag through with the braid. But for the most part, I don't think most people think about this. When you have a braid in, until you take the braid out, you're probably not washing and drying your hair, right? And that might be a day or 2 or 3, depending on the movie set, the job, the lifestyle. And so what's not being talked about here is human versus synthetic. It's okay to be synthetic, some sort of or non 100% natural hair fiber, because it's the washing, the drying, the dry heat, that flat iron, curling iron, all the hot tools that will destroy non-human hair. It just kind of melts. Well, if it's just braided in, it doesn't get those tools or that shampoo or the conditioning or the opportunity to get tangled up. So it can be a less expensive, fun, fantasy synthetic color, whether it's, like you said, yarn, string, or synthetic hair. That's a good point.
It was the first time I was introduced to horsetail hair.
Yeah.
So I thought that was fascinating too.
And vice versa. When we got really involved with hair extensions, I had a few calls. Look at Casper. You got to we're not ready to go yet. Lay down. He loves horses. So he's like, horses, we're going horseback ride? No, but it's really, really big. I'm down in the Louisiana area, so there's a lot of horse farms around here. And people would ask if we did horsetail extensions, because people that show horses take the poor tails off the ugly horses and then add it to the big, beautiful.
Have you ever done it?
I have never done it, but
it's not fun.
I just, well, you're working right by the butthole. I can't imagine.
Let me tell you, it is not fun. Best advice. You see that sucker start rising, you get the hell out the way real fast. Okay, let me tell you.
You've done a horsetail extension?
I have. So the way they judge it, the hair, as the hair has to be, the tail has to be full and long all the way up to the hoof, but not touching the floor. Like they actually measure the distance between.
And it's okay for them to have extensions. They don't get graded lower for that.
Wait, say again.
So the horse can have horsetail extensions, and that's not something that lowers the grade or anything.
No. It actually improves the grade because if naturally their tail isn't long enough, you know, sometimes the baby horse will chew on the parent's tail, or they're whipping it around to get the flies off of them, so it breaks for whatever reasons.
Interesting.
Anyways,
we're still talking about placement.
Oh, it's placement, all right. Let me tell you, not easy, not fun, but it's an experience.
That's interesting.
But then your favorite one is kind of like the tapes. You know, the tape.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
If I got to listen to the damn gum from you, then I'm going to talk.
We are thinking about carrying a tape in line right now. We are going to be bringing it in. And I got to tell you, you heard it first right here. Bernard's going to be selling tape. And so I always knew this day might come, especially when I started hating on it the most. I'm like, Lord knows that's what my punishment is going to be from God. He's going to say, people want to buy tape from you, but tape and hate, God, they almost rhyme. You know, I wonder if we could put that in our logo or slogan somehow. Bernard's hate tape. Buy Bernard's hate tape. So anyway, you know, I've always been very fair to tape and said the good side or the things I thought. That's so hard to do. But I always say like runway models or a photo shoot, or it is the fastest, easiest technique to do. I just didn't think it was the most fun to reuse because of sticky, gooey mess. And I still will maintain that.
The problem, if we're comparing different techniques, the problem with tape extensions is that they were supposed to be temporary fill-in pieces. They were never designed, nor were they intended to be full head applications as they are being used nowadays. And unfortunately, that's the whole thing. You start off with a great concept. One thing leads to another. There is no boundaries or lines. You know, everything, it's like you say, you give your hand, they take your arm, you know? And that's what happened. People took the idea and the concept and they ran wild with it. And it just became...
I have to admit, I was one of the ones that did that because I never did like it when somebody said I couldn't do something, you know, put a rule on it. Somebody just recently said something about a layered haircut I did. Oh, no. It was about the perms. They said, you can't wrap a perm that way. I'm like, well, you just took away the artistic part of what we do for hair. When you tell me I can't cut layers this way or I can't wrap a perm like that, because what? Because your teacher told you, because somebody else told you, it just drives me crazy. We are in an artistic field, and what rules do you have in art? Barely any. People pick up paint and throw it on a wall and call it art and sell it. I don't have to like it, but other people do. So when I put up a video showing how I wrap a perm, if you wrap a perm where you roll the hair backwards on the very front rod, it's going to all break off. That's what they're telling me. Well, I've been doing it for 30 something years and it's never broken off. That's not true. It's like, is it on base, half off base? I mean, if I'm rolling backwards, but I'm going like half forward off base and I'm wrapping it, the hair on the front is actually getting pulled in the way at the scalp, at the way it grows on the front of the head. So actually, I'm going with the way the hair grows, so it's less likely to break off. They're like, you have to roll the front rod forward. So with that being said, when it comes to tape, I was one of the first ones in New York. I remember on one of my stylists named Jennifer, Mr. Ron was saying, tape ins are not for full heads. I'm like, says who? I mean, it's staying. I was already using by OnRight. So
only the creator, the inventor of tape.
Yeah. So what? I mean, so what? I was using tape ins from another company, a hair replacement company called On Right back then. It was a smaller tape in. It was very long, and I'd cut them up into smaller pieces. We put them on some people, and then we just waited. And we're like, wow, these things stay in way longer than I expected. So we started doing more and more. And then we started doing what we call full heads. And then Ron brings out this tape technique, and it's he's saying, just do this with it. And then we put a full head in on stage. I mean, I'm on stage. I got the microphone. I got the power, you know, who's going to stop me? And I tell you what, I'd already done it on her head a few times. So it wasn't like I'm trying it on stage. It's working. She's loving it better than anything else at the time. This is before eye tips are even invented, you know. People are getting away from wefts. They're putting these individual strands in. And so tapes were one of the first reusable techniques other than a weft, you know, but one of the newer, quick to install, almost anybody could do it. That was the big allure, was it was fast and easy, and it does fit pretty flat to the head, right? So for the most part, I just don't like tape because it's put on fine, thin hair too often. It's really made for medium to thicker hair to support the weight of them. But then we've actually even got a little, I'm not done testing it. Actually, I'm going to be probably testing it today or tomorrow. We got this little syringe with a needle that is teeny tiny. We put rubbing alcohol in there, and you put it between the tape, and you're supposed to squirt it with a different, and it's supposed to keep the sticky gooey mess to a minimum. I don't believe it, but I'm gonna try it, and we're gonna try to remove these tapes from Alexis's hair. We have some that have been in a few weeks, and they're staying in pretty good. I'm pretty impressed. So there's no sticky gooey above and below them right now. She's not complaining. She's wearing them very comfortably. We have them a row in between our couple of rows of wefts. So we're gonna test taking them out, cleaning them up, putting them back in, and see how it's supposed to be less sticky and gooey than most of the ones out there. I don't believe it, but you know, some people don't mind the sticky gooey mess, and they want tape because it's fast and easy, and they already do it. So we're gonna get a line of tape ins, and they're being tested now. We'll have them in soon to start selling, but right now I'm going to just be testing some ways and try to eliminate the stuff I hate. Eliminate the stuff I hate about tape in.
So then we've gone over the temporary stuff. We've talked about the tape. We've talked about gluing and adhesive. You talked about wefts and the beads. You told your story about the keratin bonds. There is the sewing stuff, which is a variation of gluing. Those are the primary popular techniques that most people know and talk about and research the most. Is there any other popular techniques that I'm missing?
I don't know. I'd have to, not that I know of. I think you're right as far as, I mean, you mentioned clip-ins early on, so that would
clip-ins, yeah.
Because
I was just basically trying to take a progression from where is the starting base level at a minimum, and then I'd go mid-grade would be, well, low to mid-grade would be some kind of
before you go there, let's talk about real quick the clip-in. The clip-in is essentially a weft. So the way I would think about to talk about all the techniques and sorts of ways of putting extensions in, the weft itself is put in multiple different ways, and so that's in my head how I'd have to sort it out. You know, you've got a weft, you've got just a bead of glue. You can just buy the glue. It's like a latexy type. You part off the hair, you squeeze a line of glue on the weft, on the head. You let them dry a little bit. Some people blow dry a little bit, and then you push it together and hold it on there and blow dry. And it'll stay in a week or two if you don't wash your hair. And a lot of girls do that. And then you add clips. So then you can clip it in, you can take it out, put it back in. And then you've got where you put a little braid along the scalp, a little cornrow braid, a cable, whatever you want to call it, and sew it in, tie it in. Then just recently you've got where you can put the beads on the head. Put some beads on the head, and some will string between the beads. Unnecessary. Just skip the string between the beads, but sew the weft. What are you laughing at? Sew the weft to the beads. And so then you have our technique where you have pockets in the weft and you can pull beads through and attach it. So that's just 5 quick ways of attaching wefts to the head that I can think of. Any other ways of attaching a weft that I maybe missed? Technically, a tape-in extension is a sort of weft.
Is a form of a weft. Well, that would go along with the glue adhesive.
Yeah.
I guess. Sure.
Yeah. And so it's just a little short 1.5 inch wide weft. It is fabricated a little differently, but some people actually make their tape-ins with hand-tied mini micro wefts, and they have 1 or 2 rows on there, and it just glued to a little surface that gets taped together. So to me, weft was like one whole type of extension, and then individual strands was the other side, where we started off by cutting a little bit of hair off the weft, putting a little hot glue or glue on there ourselves, or dipping into what we call the hot pot. And I think a lot of people are still doing those 2 techniques because they can take a little blonde, a little brown hair, put them together and make their own little highlight, low light pieces. Great, you know? And so we're not even talking about high or low quality along the way. We're just talking about techniques, right? And so if you did that, then you go into individual strands they called them pre-tipped for a while before we knew what they were tipped with. Then they tipped them with all kind of stuff. We talked about that last week, between keratin, beeswax, polyester, plastic, all of that. So we went from pre-tipping it ourselves to tip. And then that tip was really destroyed when we take it out. So we try to re-tip it ourselves. That was tough. So they came out with an eye tip, and the eye was where the bead was the reusable technique. And then our brand, the O tip, was another one. But there's one I don't know the name of that's got a little silicone sealant holding it all together, and it's got this long, skinny, little wiggly tail. And I think it's sort of like an eye tip. And I've got some in my office. Some company sent me. I don't even really know how to use it, but I think you stick that little teeny tiny little silicone-y, rubbery tail in the bead instead of the eye of an eye tip. And it's just supposed to be smaller and finer because the eye tip's kind of large. And I think this just ends up being smaller. And then I've seen one that's two tips that are connected with a little string. It's like a little string, and you hold, and I don't know what that is. I don't know if you put the string in. Maybe you put a little spirit gum on the string and stick it to the head. Maybe you tie it in a knot, but I don't really know. And so there's a few techniques that I've seen that I don't even know. Maybe it's monkey bars. I don't even know what. Yeah. So that's all the techniques I kind of know. And so I'd throw it back at you and say, did I miss any that you know of?
That's a nice way of categorizing, summarizing them all, you know. And then the keratin bonds nowadays, they're trying to look at, do you use keratin bonds pure keratin? Do you use it with a hybrid? Do you mix some polyester or plastic or resin into the keratin? Do you cure it? Do you use it with heat? Do you use it with cold fusion? Do you use it with light? There's so many different ways of going about it, you know. And then
the V lights. When you said light, I thought V light, that would be a technique. And then with K-tips, do you do round bonds or flat bonds? That would be part of technique. But I think, man, when you said technique earlier, I was thinking more placement. But I guess technique kind of covers all of that too. I think I'm out.
This is the rabbit hole that you can go down, and that's right. The beauty of it. There are so many different variations of so many different things. There is something out there for everybody. It is our job as stylists to take all of this information, take all of this availability at our disposal, and match up what is the right thing for the right type of hair that we're working with. And that's the beauty of what we do. That's
the thing that we could naturally progress into next, but not right now or today, would all of what we just talked about is basically for the sides of the head creeping into the top. And then there's top of head options. When somebody's too thin on the top of the head, what do we do then? Not just extensions or not extensions at all. Maybe that and a sort of top of head option, or just a top of head option brings enough hair into the sides that you don't need extensions at all either. So don't do hair extensions on somebody that needs hair on top just because it's all you know how to do. That's mostly my message. We can go through that next week. Why not? That'll be fun.
You know, and at the end of the day, kind of like what you were saying, I've been thinking about it too. The only right or wrong that exists is if it breaks the hair off.
I
If
agree.
it's breaking the hair off, and if you done, as the stylist, you done a consultation with your client, and your client is willing to maintain their hair, both of you are in agreement. You're willing to perform the service and do their hair in this specific kind of way, and the client is willing to maintain their hair in that specific kind of way, then technically speaking, that's still a correct way of doing hair. So the idea to judge and say, if you do this, that is absolutely wrong, hard stop.
I stretched your mind a little bit on that art situation, huh?
Because I am a firm believer that there really is a service or a technique or a product out there for everybody. The only thing, what it comes down to, like, this is something I do with my clients all the time. Anytime a client will come in with their phone and be like, I want this, I never say, no, you can't have it. I always say, absolutely, we'll do this. So you're telling me then at home, you're going to start doing this, 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 this. And I start rattling off 15, 20 different things that I know they don't normally do, have said to me in the past they'd never do. But I never say no to anybody. If you come and you spent the time as the client to research and think and get excited and get inspired, and then you're willing to come in and try to have that conversation with me, I don't want to kill that excitement or that momentum. I'm going to say, absolutely, let's go, let's do this. I can do this for you. So then you're going to do this to maintain it, yeah? And they're like, whoa, 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 slow it down there, boy. Like, no, I ain't doing all that work to maintain this. I'm like, okay, option 2, let's bring you, instead of killing somebody's excitement, right? Bring them back down to reality on a soft landing, man. Don't let them don't crash and burn and pop their balloons.
Right, right.
Let them pop their own. It's more fun because now you're being encouraging. You're being the nurturing parent rather than the what's the word I'm looking for?
It does encourage education also and communication instead of just being a boss, a dictator.
Yeah, well, whatever the right word is that I'm trying to think of that I can't think of right now at the moment. But the point is, it's not about being soft. It's not about being anything. It's about having that conversation with your client, being a stylist, being the professional that we are, and letting them know this is what the consultation is all about.
Instead of slapping them in the face with your white gloves and saying, no, that is not for you.
Yeah. No soup for you, you know.
Right. That's what I was thinking of too.
Right? So that's where we're all at. All right, everybody. Let us know what techniques you guys are doing. Let us know. I come up with 35. Can anybody top that? Let me know what other techniques you all got. We'll talk about top of hair extensions. Let us know what kind of things you want us to talk about next week in regards to that topic. Go out there, be profitable, stay profitable, everybody. We'll catch y'all next week.
Bye.